Um, I was going to do the bait of the day, which was a head and tadpole. Unfortunately, as I was digging through stuff and getting it out, a little too much Bill Dance in me. She's barbed. She's barbed. I need to do a video on how to do the fishing line trick and pull it out, because this really hurts. Or I can just simply pull it out because the hook's cut. Let the ketchup off my thumb, because I'm just having fun with it, because I've done this before, but I did it with a drill press. Long story, don't ask about that one. That was really dumb. Like, dumb. Anyway, are you ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here. Welcome back to Bassin 101, where I try to make fishing simple for everybody. That's the number one right there. I figured I would do a thing today about topwater. Now this is probably going to take a couple of different episodes right here, because I want to try to make topwater simple for everybody. There's a lot of topwater videos out there on YouTube, and I'll be honest with you, check a lot of them out, because a lot of them are good. They're very helpful and everything, but at the same time they can also be very complicated. So I figured I would kind of go a little old school today with some of the topwater baits, because I'll be honest with you, the stuff that's new out there right now, all the Japanese baits and everything else that's out there, they're just copies of the old stuff. They really are. You can only go so far with topwater designs. There are some new stuff out there that's really good that I actually like. But as far as in this video, what I'm going to show you is different baits that you can be using. I'm going to leave out Lucky Craft, Mega Bass, shower baits, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave all that out, for the simple fact that there's really no reason to have them in there. They're great baits. They're awesome baits. Don't get me wrong. Especially some the Mega Bass stuff. Some of the stuff that they got out there is amazing. So don't get me wrong. But I tend to be an old school guy myself. I kind of like the old school stuff, because that's kind of what got everybody there to begin with, and they still catch bass today. And plus, I figured I'd break out the old trucker hat, the old Praco trucker hat, and look kind of goofy for today's video, because I make this thing work. That's right. Don't be hating. Okay. Anyway, getting to today's video, I'm going to try to keep this little episode short, because what I want to do is I want to introduce you to some introduce you to some lures that you could be using. And the next video, I'm going to kind of break them down as far as when and how to use them. So to start things off, walking baits. Now, before I start this, you're going to have to forgive me, because a lot of these lures are discontinued. And I apologize for that, but I can't help that. But you can go on eBay and find them. You can go a lot of different places and find them. So just kind of keep, if something strikes your fancy, look it up, because it could be something you might want to use. And I'll try to give you my best description of what's going on here. Number one, of all things, walking baits. Boom! Zara Spook. Can't beat the Zara Spook. This is probably the number one walking bait of all time. Originally came from the Zaragoza of the 20s and 30s era. 1920s and 30s era for you younger guys. But this is the version that came out by the mid-60s, early to mid-60s, with the plastic and the line tie shift. They were originally on the nose, but the line tie shift did those. And another one that's also really good that came out in the 80s is the Woodwalker by Ozark Mountain. Now this has a completely different action. This does not walk the dog like the Zara Spook. This has more of almost a forced action. You kind of have to really kind of work this thing to get it to do right. But I think it definitely has its principles. This is just a collector's item for me here, but these are definitely a different version. You know, you can tell a different size and different profile, but this walks completely different than this one does. So again, it's all what you're looking for, but we'll get to that down the road. Another bait that kind of walks the dog in certain ways, but I call them more of a dawdle bait. They kind of sit or just kind of dawdle. They sit more almost at a 90-degree angle and just kind of dawdle. They're more of a slapstick bait, if you want to call it that. But one of them is a tail-weighted boy howdy, which is back. Pratco has brought them back out, all kinds of different colors. I still tend to stick with the original colors. Let me fix this feather right here. But I tell you what, guys, when you use stuff like this, I like to have a hackle trailer on the bottom. And the reason is because about this much of the bait sticks out of the water. So as long as you got this trailer down here, what happens is if you've got bass that want to hit a top water, but they don't want to commit to the surface, that's a good bait to do. And to go right with it is the old Woodwalker, which I did in a video a while back as far as the bait of the day. Forgive me, the name escapes me right now. But these two together, now this is discontinued. This is no longer around. And these are almost impossible to find anymore. So I'm just giving you an example of a wooden version of this. But personally, since they're available, give me a boy howdy. Tail-weighted, boy howdy. Different kind of colors. I tend to stick pretty basic with mine. But this is the most important thing, the hackle. You notice on this one too, I have a hackle on this one. So, but this sucker right here weighs almost an ounce. That's a little too much for me, to be honest with you. This is 3/8 of an ounce right here, and I like throwing this dude. I'm very happy these came back out. For a while, they're only available in a Walmart grab box. Mostly in clear, but this is back out. Now, poppers. Everybody knows poppers. Everybody knows poppers. Rebel. Everybody knows a Rebel popper. I tie hackle on mine. I do not like the bucktail. It slows the bait down, absorbs water, and makes it sit different in the water. Don't like them stock. Don't use them stock. Put a hackle on there or tie your own hackle for that. Another one is the Rebel, the head and chugger. It's also a really good bait. You know, this is kind of a collector's right here. It kind of has the prints on hooks. But I do have some chuggers in my using box, and they also have hackle on them too. So, but this has a different sound than this. Not only that, no rattle. So keep that in mind too. Just a little simple deal there. Now, as far as poppers, you also have chuggers. Now, chugger, to me personally, from my experience, is only one kind of chugger. Boom! That's the head and Lucky. Now, this is the baby Lucky 13. This is the Lucky 13. And in case you're wondering, that's my favorite color. Transparent perch or just perch out of wood. Either way, this is my favorite color in the head and top waters, period. But here's your standard Lucky 13 and your baby Lucky 13, which I actually have hackle on this one because this has a different action. The cool thing about these, if you've ever messed with them, absolutely tie a loop knot. Do not tie directly to these lures and don't use a snap or a split ring. Just tie a loop knot. And the cool thing about those is if you want to reel kind of slow, they'll actually move like this in the water, which is kind of cool. So you can actually chug it and then move it. Chug it and move it. So it's kind of cool. Another chugger, popper style that I did the other day. Actually, I did the other day, as far as lure of the day. So hula popper. The best way to use a hula popper is you let it sit, wait a little while, grab you a drink. If you smoke, light your cigarette, whatever, and just go bloop. Just bloop. One time, let it set. This is what does the work. I've had windy days where I threw a backlash, and I picked up my backlash and I started reeling in. Noticed my line was getting tight as I was going across. I happened to look, and this was gone. So, yeah, this does the work. Another good topwater bait if you want to be subtle. Minnow. Here's a Rebel, old one. Another Rebel, a bigger one, old one. And here's an old Rapala. Rapala? Rapala? I've always called them Rapala. I'm sure probably Rapala is the correct name, but I've always called them Rapala. But these baits are tunk, tunk, tunk on the surface. That's what these are for. And then once you clear the area, then rip them back. Because a lot of times they'll take them as a jerk bait. And these suckers will run about a foot, maybe 2 feet under the water. Another good point there. Now, let's get into crawlers. Now, crawlers is a whole different thing because everybody, when they hear crawler, they think jitterbug. This was the bait of the day a while back, too. Old jitterbugs. Now, there's another version, too. The head and crawler. Crazy crawler. This is also a really good bait. Now, I've seen on YouTube where there's ways to modify this thing by changing the line tie angle and everything else. And I'll be honest with you, I can kind of see where that plays a deal in it. But personally, stock, out of the box, I've never had an issue with them. And as always, on these hook hangers, I always put a split ring and treble hooks. And I don't use long shank. I use as a standard short shank round bend treble hook. I think these may be, I can't remember, these either Gamakatsu or Daiichi's. But that's what I use on that. They will they will hang together if you're not careful, but it's imperative that you, I sound smart right there, imperative. But it's imperative that you keep these hooks where they can move around. And I don't use long shank because they will absolutely hang. No, there's no question about that. They will hang. So I use just a standard shank hook, round bend on these things. Another bait that there's 100 million of these out there on the market, and this is not old. This is new. But when it comes to frogs, if you want to go old school, you go Strike King, go with the grass frogs, the popping frogs, stuff like that. Me, I use a lunker hunt. Now, there's a lot of others like the Spro. There's tons of great frog baits out there. So don't get me wrong. But I did the Randy Blaukat deal and boiled these. And hear that? That's what you call a frog fart. But these things compress. And especially now, since I boiled them, the legs are just outrageous. Awesome bait. So frog is definitely another way to go if you get into that kind of situation. Last but not least, prop baits. Oh man, is there ever a list of prop baits? Good grief. Regardless, I am no Zell Roland. I promise you that. But as far as a topwater bait, when it comes to prop baits, there's two as far as what you buy off the shelf. Boy Howdy, Smithwick Devil Horse, 1/2 ounce. Now you can do a 3/8 ounce too. I like the 3/8 ounce also. But this is a 1/2 ounce, which I actually have a few coats of clear lacquer on this, where I took everything off and put a few coats of clear lacquer on it just to protect it. I didn't put any kind of serious coating on this thing because it's a devil's horse. It is what it is. But 2 different styles of props. One's pointed, one's rounded. But I think a lot of these guys call these Mickey Mouse. But again, same size, different weights, 3/8, 1/2 ounce. This is a little bit bigger profile. And of course, because of the color, this looks bigger than this one. But here's your twin prop baits. And there's a lot of them out there, so don't get me wrong. Then you have your single props. You have, now this is long discontinued. You're not going to find this unless you go on eBay to try to find it, but a Dalton Special. And this is an old one. She's probably 1930s. But an old Dalton Special. And the old standby head and Torpedo. This is the baby Torpedo. Yeah, baby Torpedo. I got my glasses, but I can see that. Again, rear prop baits. And they're really good for agitating. But that's just kind of gives you an idea what goes on with some of the different kind of prop baits, the different kind of topwater baits that you can have, and it kind of gives you an idea of what's available. However, there's one small problem when it comes to topwater. 9 times out of 10, you've got a very small window to fish them. So you got all these baits. How do you know what to do? How do you know how to choose these things? Well, that's in the next one. So hopefully this is going to help you out a little bit as far as choosing things. Like I said, I apologize if some of them are discontinued. That's just the way fishing is. That's just the way bass fishing is. Some of the best baits that was ever hit the market are discontinued. It's just a selling point. If the sales fall, it is what it is. I mean, it's perfect example. Rebel Pop R came out in the 1970s, and then by the early 80s, not only did they discontinue these, but they threw away the molds, got rid of them, chucked them. So they brought them back by 82, 83, with the success of the Head and Chugger, and I think Rebel Rouser had a chugger and some stuff like that. So they brought the Rebel Pop Rs back out, and believe it or not, this became a major pro secret in the 80s for several years. And there's also ways of modifying this bait, which I don't do that myself, but because I don't fish for money anymore. So, but there's different ways you can modify these things. And if you want to modify them, check out old school bass fishing videos on YouTube. That dude's got some great stuff. I've got a majority of all the videos that he has on there, but I still love watching them. I binge on just because it's good information and nothing wrong with them whatsoever. So again, good selection of baits here. Just kind of want to give you an idea what's going on with these things. And the next time I see you, I'm going to help break these things down and give you best compression of your time on how to fish these things. So until the next video comes out, may the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, tight lines, fish on.